event will be recorded for everyone around. And good night, good evening. In reality, it's getting dark, and I'm already kind of thinking that it's much later than it is. Sorry. So good evening, maybe good afternoon for some of you. Welcome to Data Plus Women, the group from the Netherlands. For those that are new to Data Plus Women, we're a group, an international group in different countries. And our main idea is to create space for women in the data field. So we try to always bring amazing speakers, female speakers, to our events to show what they're doing, what they're researching, what they're working. And in the past, when we used it to be able to go to spaces, we had kind of a lot of network in our events also. Nowadays, well, we're still all here and well, networking in a way, right? So thanks again for everyone. I put here our COVID days. I know that it seems that every day is the same day. We're always in the same spaces and doing the same things and locked in the same room. So I hope that we'll be able to bring some joy for your day today. For those of you that don't know the group, this is Data Plus Women Netherlands. We are a group now of, I don't even know, we're 6 people. It's amazing. We're onboarding. I'm very happy to share this with everyone because we have now a new organizer that is also one of our speakers. She came first as a speaker, and then she asked, oh, do you need help to organize? And we said, yes, of course, why not? So we're also onboarding GAVI. So GAVI, thanks. I hope that you enjoy your experience in the group. If you'd like to say hello to everyone.
Yeah, hi everyone. I definitely enjoy. I mean, I'm super new. I think I joined like a week ago, so still a lot to learn, but I'm really happy to be here. I think the kind of group like this was missing a little bit in my life, so I'm really happy to join.
Oh, thanks. And we're very happy to have you with us. So Gabi, our new organizer of the ones, we have Aline, that is from InfoLab, Amanda from Cargo, Emma, also from InfoLab. We have Marizi, also from InfoLab. Gavi is from the Einstein Analytics part from Salesforce, and I'm from Tableau. So for those of you that would like to connect with us, you can, if I go back, you can connect with us personally. Here are our personal Twitters, so you can keep in contact with us. And you can also connect to the group. So we do have a page that you can follow. We have a Twitter account, and we are also on Meetup. So about today, today we have one of our speakers, as I said, is Gabi. Other one is Timmy. It's interesting because we have 2 people. Well, Gabi is more close to me, not to the rest of the group, but Timmy, I think that she's close to everyone in the group because she was one of our followers that were always in our events when we use it to have those that we could go to a space, have a beer and this kind of stuff. So I think that it's quite nice to have both here with us today. We will have a bit of a special science. We have Timmy. Timmy will kind of disclose to us how people check the health of our pets. So she will go through which are the measures, which are the indicators that are used when you get your pet and do the exams, what is important and what they say, what they see there. And we have Gabi talking a bit about her previous experience when she was in research, and she noted the importance of communication to make people understand what you're trying to show when you share data in your research. We will also have a kind of a lightning talk in the end about this for social good. For those of you that have never heard about it, It's an initiative in data also, and we'll have Amanda talking about it. So this is our agenda for today. And I would like to invite Timmy to be our first speaker. So Timmy, if you could please. Just a quick reminder for those that are online, you can send your questions on the QA. You see that there is a button on your Zoom that is different from what I'm seeing because I'm in another mode, but you see that there is on the bottom a QA icon. So you can send your messages there. And feel free to use the chat. I hope that you're all seeing it somewhere. Usually we have access and you can use it during the presentations to say hi to other people that you see here. Feel free. Chat for everything. Questions, please use questions and answers. And if you'd like to share anything on Twitter, if you use hashtag #DataPlusWoman, we will find you easier. Otherwise, maybe we will not see. So, Timmy, please come in. And
is it okay that I share my screen?
Yes.
Cool. Right, so I know everybody, hi, it's Timmy. So I know that it's for everybody, it's already evening, so I want to keep it light and not so heavy. First of all, we have a special guest. She's Lily, she's snoring next to me.
No.
Sorry.
Hi, Lily.
If you hear somebody snoring, it's her. And also we are in quarantine and we already started a kind of lockdown since March actually. So pets, dogs and cats are reducing stress. So it's really good that you have pets at home. They can help you through the loneliness, which helped me a lot. So Idexx, where I work I come from pharma marketing intelligence, and for me, I thought, oh, wow, Idexx is in veterinary science. So I thought, people thought, and me also thought, I'm going to work with them, I'm going to work with really hot vets. However, it turned out even not with incredible Dr. Paul. I ended up in a lab as a statistician and economist. I started to work in a veterinary lab. These are my colleagues, these are the scientists, and everybody now I became a med scientist. So in the company, just for you guys to imagine, so we don't test on animals, we test on animals, but for their benefit. So in the business, we have diagnostics, we produce diagnostics and machinery for the veterinary practices to test in-house the pets. I'm under the business of Reference Laboratories. We run 90 labs globally. We also, the other business line, they create software for practices, practice management softwares. We also have other lines, other business lines like water, livestock, poultry, and dairy. So you can imagine that in the US or Germany or France, where they produce a lot of milk for human consumption, they have to have the correct level of antibiotics, everything in the milk in order to get into human consumption. So it's us who gets tested the milk and the poultry, the livestock. And also we run an R&D, research and development business line, which involves animal and human health research and development. These are the really mad scientists. So if you how we work, what we do, how a reference lab is working. I had so many questions regarding this, so I'm just going to keep it very simple. You have a pet. I have Lily. She feels sick, or she feels something is wrong. You have to check it out. What you do, you go to the vet. You go to your local vet. Your local vet is taking a sample from your pet, either fecal, either blood sample, tissue, liquid, everything, in order to find out what's happening with your dog. And then the vet is sending this sample like a human, if you go to a doctor, is sending to a veterinary lab, one of our labs, and or lab technicians are running the test for the vet. And then when the sample is resulted, either blood, either tissue, either tumor, everything, what you can imagine, then the results is going to set to the vet and to the customer as well. It works exactly the same process as a human lab, but it's for the benefit for the pets, and we are not testing on for cosmetical products, nothing like that. So, and how can you imagine a data team in this kind of environment? So my team is globally overseeing 90 laboratories. We are creating dashboards and reporting for 90 labs across the globe. We are kind of hybrid team. We work with a lot of tools. So because of the business, we cannot stick to only one tool. You know the drill, you work in this field, you cannot have only one tool. So we work from every day, we program with SQL, Python or R. And then for dashboarding, we use either SAS, Power BI, or either Tableau. Of course, my passion and my love is Tableau, so that's why I'm here. And this is, and at the end, I'm going to bring a Tableau dashboard up. So because every kind of business and also continents, like Europeans really prefer Tableau, Americans prefer SAS. So it's really, you have to fit into the business and serve everybody. We are also a hybrid team because we are in the middle of being a data scientist and being a data analyst. So it's really, really mixed and really complex. We do certain things that data scientists do, and we do certain things as a normal business intelligence analysts do as well. So therefore it's kind of hybrid. What kind of dashboards and reporting, who are our customers? Our customers are the transportation, operations, finance, quality assurance, customer experience and marketing, and workforce HR. So basically the entire business, right? And inside of this, we also, that's how we are hybrid. We also work under the labs with every kind of department that it's in the lab you can find. So we create very specific operational, quality, or customer experience dashboards and reporting for all of these departments, as you can see, from pathology to biochemistry to parasitology, microbiology, everything you can imagine. And I think GAVI is going to show some stains in later. So you're gonna see actual stains as well. I am currently a special subject matter expert in pathology. So I work with pathologies and creating operational reports for them. So metrics. As I coming from an economic business intelligence side, so I really didn't have a clue how metrics and KPIs work in a lab. So it's a very specific species in the business. And why, the question is, why we have to get into the nitty gritty and get very advanced analytics and use forecasting and predictive analytics in the lab business. It's not just because we work with research and development and we are forecasting diseases and working with scientists, but we also experience that the business is changing and millennials and our generation is changing. And we have to adjust with very specific and very deep customer behavior and customer experience research, because as you see newspapers with these articles, and it's me. I am the example. I don't have kids. I have a dog. So, you know, millennials, we are changing the business, and we really have to focus on these changes of the society. This was just a side story. Or I'm going to show you 6 metrics because I know it's boring. So 6 metrics what we work on, mainly in the lab. Or very important metric is turnaround time. Turnaround time is a specific metric the customer is paying for. Sending the test sample and getting the result. This is the turnaround time. And we always have to be around 100%. So we deliver the result on time. And it's the most important metric, how we run the lab. And we are getting into statistics. I'm sorry, it's boring. So this very, very important is the median cycle time. It's the time between, it's the time of the process that the sample gets resulted. And also we have to be certain that that the sample doesn't take ages to produce and to get resulted. Third, we also use the productivity. It's and if you see as well, what do you think? I know it's it's my own hand painting. So these yellow dots, it's March and April. What happened in March and April? Corona times. So so our productivity went down, and also now we see in October the productivity went down. Either we didn't have enough employees, and also the volume went down. So you already see that in March and April the volume went down, and also we had lack of employees due to Corona. So it's really, really important for us to measure it, and also to measure the volumes. Oh, you see April. Oh, Corona time. So the volumes went down, and you see a huge peak in the summertime when everybody started to go out and they were not afraid to bring the pet to the vet and to take samples. But we also do volumes, capacity, and forecast. Every year we forecast on base of 5-6 years of data. What is our volume going to be now they forecasted well, it's working, it's actually almost matching with our volumes, how many samples they send, and you can, it's really important for the labs to see, especially the forecast. And also the FTE, the capacity planning, the FTE capacity planning. We have to have enough employees, we have to have enough people working in the labs in order to get the samples and results out, so our turnaround time doesn't suffer. So what was the common thing between with these metrics? They all looked really boring, right? It's all line charts. So when I thought, you know, wow, for the labs we can create iron visits and everything, also it's going to be very bougie and all the fancy dashboarding. However, and it's really, really nice, I really advise the Storytelling with Data book from Cole. It's an amazing book that you have to consider your audience. And with the lab technicians, with the lab people, the clean, the most minimalistic is the better. So even though I really want to get some baby pink and baby blue there, we can't. We have to really fit it to the company to make it consistent, and they prefer monochrome as well. And we also had to choose the line, and also you have to choose the best dashboard style and chart style for your audience. That's why we use line chart, because I think it's the best for operational dashboard to measure and manage the processes and the operations. And yeah, and that's my life, all about my dog. I'm a crazy dog mom, sorry. And as an eye candy, I am bringing up, so COVID, right? Everybody's, it's everywhere it's coming from, even from the tab, COVID. So we test COVID on animals, and it's true, they can get it, but it's really, really hard, and really the numbers are really less. So animals can, especially what we've seen with the numbers, minks and feline, cats and big cats can get COVID easier. We have 2 or 3 positive tests on dogs. However, it's really unlikely that the dog is getting COVID. The COVID only they can get it from the owner who is really, really sick or something, but it's really, really rare. So it's 0.0001%, but there is a chance that the dog can get COVID from the owner. It happens, but it's really rarely. So we created this interactive dashboard for the business to look at the COVID testing. And it's global. So we have all the countries where we run COVID-19 tests for the animals. So I don't want to really get into the collections, but we run collections are blood samples or PCR test, what you also do with your saliva. So either we do saliva test on the animals or blood test, and these are different collection names, as you see. And what we have tested so far: dogs, chinchillas, cats, ferrets, lemurs, monkeys, otters, rats, cows, zoo mammals. And you see we have so far tested over 200 dogs and around 140 cats so far, only for COVID. You see that the most tested lab is in Sacramento in the US, in California. Mostly we received negative test results back. However, the positive, we received 2 positive for dogs and the rest is a cat. And that's all for me. I think I managed on time and I would like to hear from Gabby.
Thanks, Timmy. And Gabby, I guess that you're ready, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
So
just share your screen and you should be able to take over.
So I also happen to have an animal. However, there's no way I can show him to you because the only way I can hold him in my hands is if he's really sedated. So I can just show you a picture. This is our cat. However, I'm not as crazy about him. I also have a baby, so not entirely. And Timmy's shoes, but I just want to, on the theme. I'm going to show you our cat. This is my presentation, and I'm starting by showing you a beautiful picture because, it's late, and talking about science and about data in science. It's a pretty heavy topic, and I will try to, again, as Timmy, keep it light. What you see over here, and I know many people refer to this as a staining of neural cells. This is actually not a staining, but this is a cortex of a mouse brain. And for all of those who really love visualizations, this has been achieved by having 3 colors of protein, which is a red, yellow, and blue. And because they show different levels in different cells, that's why you can have this whole beautiful spectrum of cells in different colors. I really love this picture. I used to work with microscopy for a very long time. And this is like truly one of my favorites for my entire life. I have not taken it myself though, unfortunately. Just maybe briefly about me and who I am. Why do I actually have a kind of a knowledge to talk about science? I hold a master's degree in biotechnology. I did my studies in Warsaw a long time ago. I followed this up because I kind of fell in love with science and I knew I want to continue. So I followed up with doctorate studies, which I did in the Technical University in Munich. And I also loved this. I was great. It was fantastic. It was, one of the best times in my life. And then I moved to do a postdoc. So I thought I'm going to continue my career in science. And I moved to the Utrecht University. And it turned out science does not like me. And I stopped liking it as well. So this was a time when I decided I'm going to quit this. I need a change in my life. And eventually I made a big turn and I ended up being a solution engineer at Salesforce. And I work with Einstein Analytics, now known as Tableau CRM. But between that period, between when I moving to the more commercial world, moving from academia, I actually for a while worked as a freelancer, and I did a little what I call a flirtation of science communication. I started doing this because at the end of my postdoc, I was really fed up with lab work, and I was trying to find what I really like about this job. And I really like data visualization. So what kept me going at the end was to write my own blog and try to find a job in science communication. It turned out to be way more difficult than I thought. That's why I'm a solution engineer now. But that's what I want to talk about today. That's what I want to touch on how science communication looks like, how scientists approach it, and what kind of forms of science communication are they doing. So the science communication, you can kind of divide it into 2 parts. So one is the focus on what I called internal science communication. when we're talking about communication and how scientists exchange knowledge within the community. So the reason why I split it is because scientists tend to have a very specific language and to use very specific terms that are really unapproachable to anyone who's not in science. And this internal communication happens in several forms. So the most common one is a scientific article, and that's also going to be a little bit the focus of today. But we also write progress reports, we make presentations on conferences, write grant reports, we write grant proposals, which is also a form of communication, and we try to get funding. And this is a big part of our work, even though the biggest part, of course, is research. And then on top of that, we have to do lots of actual communication between ourselves. And then on top of that, we're supposed to do the external communication. And that means that we're releasing information around what we have published, what we have found out. We make YouTube videos, slams, we write newspaper articles, we make infographics. And truth be told, we're not really doing this. I mean, I dare you to show me a lab that actually puts a lot of effort into doing an external communication to the public and really does it well. It's very rare. It's usually pushed through a granting agency. So because you have written a grant, you have obtained money, and that grant says you have to do an outreach. Why would we do the communication? I mean, I already mentioned for the external part that the general idea is just to share the knowledge with the broad public, to educate people on what we have learned and what the progress is, and actually to kind of explain why are we spending their tax money on this research. But to be fair, we're mostly doing this because we have to fulfill grant requirements. And as you can imagine, this is a big problem because that means we don't care or we don't have time. For the internal communication, again, the grant way would be just to share knowledge within the community to make sure that everybody benefits from it and then can build further research on that. But the reality is we're doing this to publish, because publishing means we'll be able to get money, we'll be able to get funding for further research. We do it to get fellowships and of course to fulfill grant requirements. So as I mentioned already, the problem is that for the external one, it's a side activity. Lots of scientists do not have time for it because within their time they have to do research and they often do not have skills for it also. We're very rarely being taught of how do we communicate our science to a broad public, what kind of language do we use? Not to mention, we're rarely even thinking about what's the purpose of this and why are we doing this? Who will be interested? That kind of thought rarely crosses a scientist's mind. They just have a different focus. Internal communication has lots of problems as well. I mean, you would think that because we're talking the same language with scientists, it will be easy to understand, it will be easy to communicate. That's actually rarely the case. Many scientists think if they write complicated stuff, that means it's smart. If you write complicated stuff, it just makes it complicated to understand. I think everybody knows that. But in science, it's also lack of time and lack of skills. To write a research paper, it's in a way that if someone wants to read it and someone will read it, it's a skill that's really, really missing. And maybe just to give you a sense of how a research paper looks like, this is it. This is a paper I have taken from Neuron, one of the bigger journals, one of the journals that actually takes care of how their articles look like. And this is it. It's a lot of text. It's, truth be told, not easy to understand. Often written in a very complicated way without thought of how am I telling this story. Mostly just throwing our results at people. You can also see that it's accompanied by a bunch of graphics, what we call figures, with individual panels. Those tend to be super crowded because we have to show all the data that we have collected, all the results that we have. And in reality, when it comes to reading such a paper, many scientists would not do that. When I was a scientist, I usually had around 20 of those to read a week, just because there's that many of them published. So what I would do is I would actually go through figures. I would go through the data for the visualizations in here to make sure that to get the gist and understand what the paper is actually about. Text is a little bit obsolete. So as you can imagine, this is a really important part on bringing or publishing a paper when you have to put so much effort into making the visualization. And yet so many scientists do it wrong. Do it wrong or don't care so much. They feel like it's okay. It's just my data will sell myself. That's the common thinking in the science world. And this whole build-up position has led me to writing my own blog. But yeah, just maybe a recap what the scientific figures are about. They show schematics, they show graphs, they show microscopic images like the one I have shown you, results of biochemical analysis, results of genetic analysis, and so on. So when I have started writing a blog, I started writing around figure makeover. That was my general idea. What I would do is I would just take a scientific article that I liked or I didn't like, it didn't really matter, but I would take the figures that were terrible and I would show how you can improve them. I would show how with small tweaks, with implementing a couple of design principles, you would turn something that's really difficult to follow into something that's really easily understandable and get that information quicker. And it's important to do that not only because it makes it easier to read, it's because if it's easier to read, most people will see more impact of your work, right? They will be referring to that paper. They will be saying, this was great, this is fantastic. So what you will see here is basically all the posts that I have written over the course of 2017 and then one in 2018. So the blog is a little bit dead, to be honest. I have recently refound my inspiration and actually decided to take a little bit of twist and also add what I do currently to how to improve your dashboard. But what I want to show you in the next couple of slides is just one of the posts, that I have written, the one that got like the most attention, which is around using white space. So basically, this was my starting point. This was the figure that I have taken. It has a bunch of microscopic images, which you can see over here. Has a bunch of biochemical analysis. I'm not going to explain what this exactly is. It doesn't really matter that much. And then has a bunch of just simple bar charts. But basically was one of the striking things here when I started looking at this figure was that I read it like I would read a text, right? So I think this is just an overview of how the experiment looks like. This is some images from this experiment, and this is the evaluation of this. And actually that's not the case. What's the case here is this is the evaluation of those images. This is the data that they have collected from them. So just because they have not taken really advantage of how you use white space and to separate different things, they basically completely messed up how you would read this. So what I have done, this is how the image looks afterwards, how that figure looks. So I have first of all taken and turned all of their images into black and white. I've done this because they are way more contrasting. And as you can imagine, reading something that's red on a black background is way more difficult than reading something that's white on a black background. It just has way more contrast. I have implemented a little bit of color into the graphs to kind of indicate when we're using this drug, whereas where we're using a recovery. So you can follow that. So you create this pattern that people can follow throughout the figure. I made sure that all my elements are grouped together. So those that belong together, so the images with the graphs, they stick together and they can be read as one. Yeah, and I basically just, I mean, overall, I mean, I know that in this particular image, it also looks like I have made it bigger. That's actually not the case. By using this image over here, initially was a A4 page. And with all the small tricks that I have done, even though my images are in the end bigger, it only takes half a page. But this reads much easier. So yes, I mean, I started doing those things. I was really happy about this, and I started a career in it. I tried to start a career in it. It ended up being a really difficult field. It started, I mean, there was lots of interest from scientists, but in the end, when you'd come to say, I can do this for you, people would say, I don't have money. So it is a lot of effort to, I think it's a lot of effort to educate scientists, to make sure that they understand how they can change and how they make their research more impactful through a simple visualizations tool, for simple rules of design, to make bigger impact. So this is actually my last slide, where I just put on the address of my blog if you want to check it. And yeah, if there are any questions, I will be more than happy to answer. I'm super fast always presenting, so really don't have a problem with times. Yep. Back to you, Rachel.
Sorry, my
no worries.
Computer lost control here. I'm feeling kind of as an old lady since I started to work with a Mac, because it seems that nothing works. They say that it should be kind of super user-friendly. I think that I'm not a friendly user, maybe.
So I had the same thing.
Oh, that's good to know.
I had the same thing when I switched from PC to a Mac. I hated it. It gets better.
It's not only.
Well, I love it. Just putting it out there. I think it's great.
It's because you're young, Amanda.
Yeah.
Oh, so thanks, Gabby. Oh, sorry, Amanda, interrupted you.
No, it's fine.
Thanks both. Thanks, Gabby. Thanks, Timmy. We have some time for questions before the next presentation. That it will be the one on Biz for Social Good. I think that I have a question for you both. That is the thing that Timmy mentioned, that is it possible to make scientific data sexy? Is it possible to make it kind of shine and everything else? And I'd like to get a bit of the take of you both. How do you think that this type of data can shine and can be, I think, that attractive to everyone, not only the ones that can understand what is in the details there?
Yeah, I can answer for the scientific, where it's storytelling that's really, I mean, because often when we talk about scientific data, it's just a bunch of results, and no one really thinks of how does that come together as a story. And for me, that's just critical. If you can tell a certain story around this, how you started, how you went through individual steps to that final result, that's very impactful. I know that many scientists really don't like this term, because like stories are for babies and this is serious research. Story sounds like you're faking something, but it's just a narrative that it needs to be easier understood and followed.
Thanks, Gabby. Yeah, I think that, well, I come from journalism, so I will not comment, because for me, everything can be solved with a story. Timmy, from your experience in the lab, is it easy to convince people to tell a story, or they prefer, no, I just would like to see the same that I always have seen, and I'm not interested in your...
Absolutely, absolutely. So it also depends on the person, but you have to have kind of business analyst mindset as well, that you have to influence them. And also for the audience, like if you want to, well, they say sex sells, so just put a really hot guy into the dashboard and it's going to work out. But humor aside, it's really about storytelling, as Gabi said. So we have to sell, and we have to do a lot of education and explanation on the data. And yeah, or a hot vet. I don't know, you choose, but it's literally you have to convince the customers. My customers are the lab technicians or lab managers or R&D people, that showing them what, for example, Tableau is capable, and how can we help them to deliver a very insightful dashboard and meaningful information. So it's really about a little bit of pushing and a little bit like educating them on the powerness of the tool.
Perfect. And final question for you both, because on my past life, when I was in journalism, I used to cover science for a while. And one thing that I saw is that it seems that for some people, for some researchers, it's something like, oh, if it's not super complicated, it will not show how smart I am. So have you ever seen this kind of behavior where the person would like to keep it overcomplicated just to show that they know something? So they wouldn't like to, it's something like, if you try to communicate it easier, they would say that you're simplifying something and missing everything else.
I think I have not seen it so bluntly being said. That I've seen a subconsciously doing that, or sometimes not. I think maybe that's even not the case. Maybe it's just like the lack of just writing it as they think it is, and not willing to spend time on readjusting it to make it sound simpler. I think that's
that one's actually, it's a really interesting question, because I feel like definitely I saw it a lot in science and academia, but people do it all over business as well. Like if you go to a finance presentation or something, the amount of acronyms that people throw in, it's like, we all know that nobody knows what those acronyms are. Just tell us what they are. At least I will say, at least in every scientific paper, at least the first time you come across an acronym, they will actually say what it is. Finding it back is always a different story, but at least science gives us that sort of that little present. I feel like a lot of the times in business, people just expect you to know what all of the acronyms are, which is so fun.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Also,
I think it was Einstein. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, go ahead.
I thought it was, maybe, I think it was Einstein, not sure, that said the simpler you can explain something, and I don't think he said communicating it on Google because it wasn't there yet, but the simpler you can explain it, the better you know your subject. So if you can do it very clear, you know your subject very well.
Yeah, I heard that a lot from my grandparents. They were always saying, they were mathematicians. They would always say, if you can explain it, that means you really understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Do we have time for 2 more questions? I have 2 questions.
You have, so yeah, you can do the questions, and then Amanda, after you can take the presentation also, the wrap up, and do the visual for me.
Okay, so my first question is for you, Timmy. You mentioned that you also work on customer experience dashboards, and I was quite interested to know, who is that customer and how are you collecting that data?
And what is your second question? It's to Gavi.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we have data lake. We have a lot of sources coming in, a lot of data sources, and we are collecting currently what we are working in acquiring Snowflake. It's been a game changer for us. It's powerful and it's faster what we used to have. For example, SAS Enterprise Guide or other OBDC data warehouse. We collect them from SAP and definitely from our LIM system. LIM system, again, an acronym, sorry. LIM system is a laboratory information management system. So this is our core. This is our core, and also we have many interfaces. We have even Idexx developed a lot of practice management software. So it's attached to our LIMS system, and they are communicating. And this is where our data and customers are coming from, what they have ordered, what collection, what panel they have ordered, what is the turnaround time, if there was any rejection or rework. Also, we have within the LIMS system, the laboratory information management, we have a system called NovoPath, and this is only for pathology. So we have this system, so it's like it's a network. It's a spider net. It's insane. That's why we needed to create and also Salesforce. We also have Sales for our other business and SAP. So, girl, we run on everything. So we need to get data from everywhere, and then we combine this data. We create the beautiful joins. And this is all reporting.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm gonna just skip over to the next question. So Gabriela, I think it's super interesting that you are writing this blog that kind of bridges the science and the data visualization side. I know for one, I think part of the reason why I also, similar to you, kind of left academia, one of the reasons was because we have so much cutting edge data. Why can't we be just a little bit forward with the way that we present the data? So I was wondering, this blog, so you mentioned, you know, like the post on the white space and things like that. Do you have you done any kind of analytics to see what kind of people are reading the blog? Like, is it actually scientists that are coming to read it? Or is it, you know, more of us, like the data visualization enthusiasts? And at any point were you able to sort of like sit and like talk to the people you used to work with about something like white space? And do you ever see them implementing it? I mean, I know when it comes to publishing, the publishers are very, very particular about how they want things. So like, do you think that that's a change that will actually happen?
Yeah, so I followed I followed my views on Google Analytics, so that just gives me an idea of where my users are or readers are. I think like if I look at who followed me on Twitter, there's specifically science people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so definitely not database people. I think I once presented to database people and there was interest indeed. But yeah, mostly scientists. I have to say that when it comes to implementing this and bringing it, I think it's really the reason why it's a little bit hard sometimes to sell it and to like convince people to put effort is because people just don't have time. I mean, just to maybe put it a little bit in perspective, when you get a grant for a research, you get 3 years sometimes. I think 3 years is good. And you have to do all your research in that time. You have to publish in that time. You probably have to do your outreach, and your experiments don't always work. So it's really limited what they can spend on it. So I think that's where a lot of the problems lie. And yeah, if you want to outsource it to someone else, then usually the funding is a problem. I also have to say that everything I know about design, about writing papers and how to make them great, comes from my PhD thesis. Because I had a supervisor who was obsessed with it. I mean, normally I think when it comes to writing a paper, it's a month tops. We spent half a year on it. And he was picky about aligning things and making sure everything matches and making right color schemes. So there are people in there who care and who sort of produce or educate people. But those are rare, I would say.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so we have 3 minutes. So I'm gonna just very quickly share my screen. Unless there are any other questions. Just gonna go now. Okay. All right, so I was just going to give you a very quick little nod to the Viz for Social Good project. If you don't know Viz for Social Good yet, it is a community project where we empower nonprofits by helping them to tell stories with their data. We help mission-driven organizations promote social good and to understand their own data through beautiful and informative data visualizations. We have a great website where you can look at the projects that we've had. We've had the privilege of being able to work with quite a lot of really great nonprofits. So you'll see we've been able to work with nonprofits like UNICEF. We worked with Peace and Justice. We've also worked with smaller charities, for example, the Hidden Genius Project, which was which is a London-based small charity, and other things like Guys in St. Thomas's Hospital looking into diabetes, etc. Essentially, what we do is we throw out some data. People get to work with the data, and then they submit this via Twitter. Sorry, I should have gone to the next slide. Okay, so basically up to now, the way the projects have been working is on a kind of hackathon basis. So we do the hard work of getting the data and the requirements from the nonprofits. We release a project on the website, and then people can go ahead and go to the website, download the data. We used to have in-person hackathons, but of course, unfortunately, we can't do this at the moment. But a huge part of what we were doing was virtual anyway. Are you guys just seeing your faces here? Or are you seeing the impact part? Anyhow, a lot of the participants so far have been people who use Tableau. We also have people who use Power BI or who have created custom visualizations in D3. But mostly people will upload their visualizations to Tableau Public and then tweet us at Viz for Social Good with their entrance. And then we are able to collect all of these entries and give them back to the NGOs. Sometimes this has resulted in some really cool things where the top 10 visualization makers got to actually go to the UN and like show the projects that they'd worked on, which was very, very cool. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of them, but you know, we try. I don't know, my presentation stopped working. Okay. All I really wanted to let you know today is that as of next week, we have a new project. They're really building the suspense. Even I don't know what the project is on, but if you would like to get involved with helping nonprofit organizations visualize their data for different purposes, whether it's on their website or part of mails that they send out, etc. Follow us on Twitter at VizFSG, or I will also drop the link to our website, which is here, into the chat, and then you can go ahead and get involved by pressing this button here. That was all I had to say, and I think we're exactly at 6:30, so thank you.
Thanks, everyone, and see you then.
Thanks for dialing in, guys.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye, ladies.